Okay, so let's just jump right in. Inside your body, right this very second, there is a factory running 24/7, and it's doing one of the most important jobs for your survival. The scale of what it's producing, though, it's pretty hard to wrap your head around.
Just look at that number. 200 billion. I mean, it's just massive, isn't it? It's almost an abstract concept.
And no, that's not some crazy astronomical figure or the national debt. That is the number of new red blood cells that your body is making today and tomorrow and the day after that. It's this incredible, constant process of renewal just to keep you going.
So that brings up a really fascinating question, right? How does this internal factory manage its inventory so perfectly? How does it know, okay, time to ramp up production, or, whoa, let's hit the brakes? That's exactly what we're going to unpack here.
To get to the bottom of this, we've got to go right to the source, the factory floor itself. Let's take a look at where this whole incredible process actually kicks off. Now, of course, there's a fancy scientific name for this: hematopoiesis. And as you can see here, this entire massive operation is housed deep inside our bones, in the bone marrow. That is our blood cell factory. You know, every factory needs a manager, right? Someone who walks the floor, gives the orders, and keeps that assembly line humming. Well, in our blood factory, that manager is a really important hormone.
And here it is, erythropoietin, or just EPO for short. Now, this diagram might look a little complicated, but the main idea is actually pretty cool. See, EPO doesn't just yell at everyone. It's a smart manager. It targets very specific worker cells that are already on the path to becoming red blood cells and basically says, all right, you're up. Let's go. Time to mature and get out there.
Okay, so that makes sense. EPO is our production manager. But that just kicks the question up another level, doesn't it? Who's telling the manager that demand is high? Who's giving him the order to speed things up? Well, the answer lies in this incredibly elegant little molecular switch. And this mechanism is so fundamental, so important to how our cells work, that its discovery actually won the Nobel Prize. Let's zoom way in on how this works. When your body has all the oxygen it needs, this key protein, let's call it the factory supervisor, HIF-alpha, is constantly being made. But as you can see, it's immediately tagged and basically thrown in the recycling bin. It's like the supervisor's always there, but they're just stuck in the break room so the factory stays in a calm standby mode. But let's say you go for a run or climb to a high altitude. Your oxygen levels drop. And when that happens, the system that was destroying our supervisor, it just stops. All of a sudden, HIF-alpha is free. It's not in the break room anymore. It builds up, marches right into the cell's main office, the nucleus, and it smashes the big green go button on the EPO gene. It is officially go time. So we've got our manager, EPO, and our oxygen-sensing supervisor, HIF. But a factory, it's more than just bosses and switches. The actual environment, the factory floor itself, turns out to be absolutely critical. In biology, this is called the bone marrow niche, and it's not just some empty space. It's this bustling, complex neighborhood of different cells, support beams, and chemical signals. You can really think of it as the factory's power grid, its supply chains, and all the support staff that keep the whole operation running smoothly. And this is what a healthy factory floor looks like. See all these different support cells? They're all working together, sending out the right signals, telling the most important workers, the blood stem cells, hey, this is a good place to work. You're supported here. When the environment's right, the whole system is in perfect balance. But now, look what happens when that environment gets messed up. Here, because of a genetic tweak, the support staff is in disarray. Key supply lines are cut. The whole factory floor just becomes chaotic. And here's the crucial part. It doesn't matter how loud the manager, EPO, is yelling for more production. If the factory floor itself is broken, the stem cells just can't do their job. Production grinds to a halt. So, why does all this detail matter? Understanding this whole factory, from the supervisor to the manager, all the way down to the factory floor, it's not just beautiful biology. It actually gives us a blueprint for how to step in when things go wrong. And the most obvious application here is for treating anemia, which at its core is a problem of not making enough red blood cells. By knowing all the control points in the system, we've been able to develop some really powerful medicines.
We basically have two main strategies. The first one, repo therapy, is pretty direct. We just add more production managers, more EPO, from the outside to boost that signal. The second way, with newer drugs called PHD inhibitors, is a little sneakier. They work by stopping that supervisor, HIF-alpha, from getting destroyed. You're essentially tricking the body's own system, keeping the supervisor on the clock 24/7, telling the factory to keep making more EPO.
And this whole field isn't stopping with just anemia. This quote really gets at where all this research is heading next. It turns out that in diseases like leukemia, the cancer cells actually hijack the factory floor. They corrupt the bone marrow niche to help themselves grow. So the thinking is, if we can fix the niche, maybe we can fight the cancer.
Which leaves us with a pretty amazing final thought. We've mapped out the body's most essential factory, from the master switch down to the assembly line. We're learning how to hire more managers and keep the supervisors working overtime. So, if we can learn to rewrite the rules of this system with such incredible precision, what other complex diseases could we tackle next?